ukhozi olumaphiko olugula amaphiko kwaye kwaphephezela omiyane inyoni nobuciko nomnyunyiyo egcwele isibini nemafini icula ingoma emnandi eyahlukanisa unyaka omusha omdala inyoni enezigidigidi zabalandeli abayilandelayo zamemeza sezidondolozela sathi siyayazi le nyoni yayiculela okhokho bethu abanye abathule isibongo sokhozi FM sisibhalelwe isidadada sothu ukhozi FM luhamba phambili.
Olunye usuku la sikulethela khona another amazing episode yoKhozi FM TV. Igama lami nguNeliswa Cele. Uyazi ke nawe angenzi lento ngedwa. Khona uSiya Mhlongo, my partner in crime. Uyaphila?
Uyaphila, right?
Right.
Khona sikubingelele mlaleli woKhozi FM TV. Ave kuba mnandi ukuthi sibe nawe. Sibonga kakhulu kubo bonke abantu abasubscribeayo. Ngibonile isibalo siyanyuka okusho ukuthi abantu bayatshelana. Izokhula nje lento, siyabonga kakhulu ngesupport yakho.
Kakhulu.
Namhlanje masikhuluma ngeexperience yokulingisa la eNingizimu Afrika noma kanjani angangena kuloluhlu lwabantu abakhona nasebenze umsebenzi omkhulu kakhulu. The first time that I experienced his acting was in 1998 with that soap. He played the character of Sammy in a soap. I don't know if it was a soap or a telenovela, but he'll explain just now. Created by Grey Hoffmeyer, Isidingo, The Need, Horizon Deep. Yeah, do you remember?
No, because this experience ilingana nami, well, slightly younger.
Almost.
But almost the same age.
Kgoroge, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
For having me.
Follow-up question on that, because you played Sammy and you're a minor. Does the script and the storyline kind of give you an idea of how the value chain of a mine operates, that even in your own personal now life, you understand imayini?
No.
Not that much.
The script just gives you, they just give you,
yeah.
There's this part that you're playing and the world that you're playing around.
Sure.
If in Mhlawumbe we are a miner who comes from a shaft,
yeah.
So the script will just tell you about between the shaft and wherever you go and your life, Mhlawumbe, mawuyekhaya,
yeah,
ningane zakho, ezinjalo,
yeah.
But it doesn't go into the details of teaching you about mining, how the mining works, who's mining what, where, what's the worth, and all that.
Nothing.
Nah.
So in that case, how do you prepare yourself for a role that you know nothing about?
So the best thing is just to do a bit of research in terms of how those people live, where do they live, where do they go, what do they eat, how do they hang out. Sometimes even go and visit where they are. Just visit a mine, just chill there and watch them do their thing.
Yeah.
It just gives you an insight. So that at least when you get on set, there's a bit of image that you can refer to.
Yeah. The actual storyline resonated a lot into post-democratic South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa, because of those nuances of the miners vis-a-vis the upper echelons, the middle class, and the horizon deep sort of, we're not rich, we're not really middle class, but we're getting by, and all of those storylines. And how did that prepare you as an individual and an actor into understanding the context of where South Africa had been, was, and was going?
Well, it's like they say artists are like prophets. There's just something that art has that is a projection of what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you can see, sometimes you can just see, I'm here now. I know around the corner this might happen.
Yeah.
Or you might guess, okay, it might go left or right.
Yeah.
So you write about that, It's like the story of aliens.
Yeah.
You don't know if really they're aliens or not, but somebody's thought about it, you know what, I'm going to write about it.
E.T. phone.
There are other people somewhere out there that are living, and maybe one day we'll find out that maybe they are there.
Maybe.
Like now, there's all these discussions about whether we have aliens or we don't have aliens. Our presidents are injected with this and that from the alien, you know what I mean? So it's very interesting in that way that stories try to give you a perspective of the future without actually knowing if that's going to be true or no.
And that's how it was a great success. Great success.
I can imagine. I mean, I was like 0 years old. I'm assuming with so much talent and writing and everything, it was amazing. I think also it makes me wonder, Uti, in your experience of acting from those years, kuze kube manje, is there a difference in the way mhlawumbe the industry of acting is run? And also, does that affect my capabilities akho to deliver on set?
I feel like she's gonna say, do you have the time?
There's a lot has changed, and a lot has been taken for granted, and a lot has just been wishy-washy.
Complacency.
And, you know, I remember, like I was saying, we were discussing with usicobelela, that like we're missing the time where, like, we come from the theater background. So if you come from theater and coming into TV, there's a sort of like strength that you have in terms, it's like going to gym. So theater becomes your gym.
Okay.
And then when you come into television
the
or
contact
film,
sport.
it just becomes like a showing off of your, you know, those exercises where people go and they do all those exercises. It becomes that. So now you hardly find theater actors. There's hardly no theater. People are doing musicals. I wanna be in America. And that also kills the muscle of the emotions that you have to carry in delivering dramas. And one of the things is that you then get into a space la khona uthola abantu laba benza people who are influencers, right? And those influencers now are the ones who are becoming the bar.
Leads.
You know what I mean? And the problem is now, so what happens is that then the reason behind that, the reason out there is that, you know, they have a following. We're going to spend less on marketing because if you get 3 million people following you, that means when you come onto the show, all those 3 million will be following, which is not always the case.
Not always the case,
So it's that. So now you bring in this person with 3 million, let's say it's true, then you bring them on with 3 million followers. She gets onto the thing, onto set, and acting-wise, she can't really deliver. He or she can't really deliver. Right. Now you have qualified actors who are trained, well experienced, well trained, who now have to play against an influencer. And what that has done is that then you don't see the difference between TikTok acting, Instagram acting, and the real acting that we're supposed to see on TV and on films. So if I watch you on TikTok, I see the same thing on television. And that's a problem. Then that kills acting altogether. The acting is that thing that when you are whoever you are, when we see you on the screen, we should be like, is this you? You know?
But is that a global phenomenon? And then I ask you this question because you get roles even abroad. Or is it just something that is a pandemic locally?
I think it's a local thing because abroad there are standards. You have A-list actors, you have B-list actors, you have C-list actors, you have, you know. So you can't just come from becoming an influencer and then say, we are parameters, an A-lister. And then you play with the A-listers. But and there are also unions. There are people who look after that. There's formalization and standardization of the industry that you check the criteria, you know, with who is fit to be in this and who's not fit to be in it. While in South Africa, we can just go. We can start a show now. The three of us.
Sure.
You know, so that's where the difference is. And back in the days, we didn't even have the standard, but we had an understanding of what kind of muscle you must have for you to be able to be on television or to be in film.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. you've played many roles in many movies and international movies, local productions. Where has that placed you in terms of when you now get or desire a role or are approached for a role? How do you deal with the contract, the negotiation, the demands?
That is it's very, I think it depends again who you're dealing with.
Okay.
Because in most cases what happens is, in South Africa it's very funny. So you have an agent, right? And you have the production company that is calling you to become part of the thing. And then you have the broadcaster, which could be whether you're SABC, your Mnet, your ETV,
or your streaming service.
If the streaming services is different because they work in a different model.
Differently, yes.
But I'm scared that now they're starting to fall into this South African practice.
We'll get to that.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So what happens is that you deal with your agent, and the agent then deals with the production company. The production company will come back, and there'll be this back and forth thing happening. And then if you agree with that, then they go to channel, and the channel agrees. But now these days, what used to happen before is that the creativity was left in the hands of creatives.
Okay.
Right, where creatives will come and they will dictate terms in terms of who must play what and whatever. Now we have broadcasters dictating terms, which now takes us back to the influencer thing.
Is this now does this mean selecting of cast?
It doesn't matter what whether it's a cast, whether it's a director,
and writers,
whether,
and everything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it used to be, if I come with a story to you, let's say you are a broadcaster and I come with a story to you, and you say, okay, Tony, I like the story, make it happen. So you give me the money, and I go look for my team. And I'm like, wow, here's the story. And you're like, yeah, I like it. I'm going to put it on my channel. I'm going to sell it for this much, blah, 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 blah. Thank you. Transaction done. You go your way, I go my way. Now it's no longer like that. They put now, we have broadcasters putting what they call commissioning editors, becoming the voice, because the claim is that, they're trying to protect the broadcaster's interest. So they will pick whoever they want. But my problem is that those commissioning editors might not be the most creative people. They might not be the most understanding people when it comes to how things are changing, how creativity is taking a certain shape, how trends are moving from certain things, and they still may be stuck in and you're trying to push. But now that they're gonna, but because you came with that story, and then we still have that thing in South Africa that when they pay, they own.
Okay.
Right? I pay you, I own everything that you have. So
is this with the public broadcaster or all other channels?
Well, the public, we don't know about public broadcaster because the public broadcaster now has been off the game for some time.
Okay.
So now that they're coming back, we will want to see how that's going to play out. But with all these other channels, that's what you get. That's mostly what you get.
So you basically sell them your blueprint. You sell them.
But now you know that the copyright amendment bill is still being worked on.
Yeah, we'll also get to that.
We're hoping that we'll just change things.
Because you've been, either in the forefront or in the background of that struggle where Flow has been, trying to lobby uhulumeni.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, but get your point.
So basically, that's what it is then. So then the artists are now treading careful. I don't want to upset. They become very timid. The boldness is gone. The boldness of Yizo, how used to push the envelope and become this. I feel it's gone. People are trying very hard to push here, push there, but because the creativity is not it's mostly not in the hands of the creatives. We're suffering a lot of quality productions.
Compromise.
Highly.
And how is it different? You said it's different when it comes to the streaming services?
Streaming services, they work. They have their international standards about it. And then they come from, you know,
Yeah.
the world where things are done in a certain way.
Yeah.
So when they come here, they approach things in that way, right?
I see.
But obviously now they come in a, they fall into, you know, it's a mess. You fall into this mess.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't want to upset the status quo. So they rather try to fit in and deliver what they found on the floor as it was. But then it disadvantages, you know, us, because we're not seeing, like there's a one of Disney's big bosses, the guy who was, I think, the CEO, who was just put in now. And that's basically when he came in, that's what he said. He said, I want to take creativity back to creatives. He's like, as Disney, that's what we want to do. And man, if that happens, you probably see me on Disney every time.
Still noTony Kgoroge, umlingisi esimazi kakhulu waseNingizimu Afrika. Sizokhuluma nje ngokulingisa kwakhe, kodwa futhi neso lakhe when he looks into the industry, the entire value chain, njengoba usuvela umuzi ukuthi how much in the know he is and how much he's also willing to carry the placards for the industry. Ukuthi kwenzeke umehluko, siyabuya.
There are two types of people. Those who forget everything and run, and those who face everything and rise.
We are the ones who get up after we fall, not afraid to dust it off and walk tall.
Welcome to the most spectacular show on earth!
We see beauty in the scars we share and power in the broken hearts we wear.
We are the ones who won't shake, the ones who don't break.
With enough courage to shine through the shadow of doubt and give hope to those who have run out.
We live freely, open.
We defy the normal.
Not afraid to make mistakes. Because our strength comes from the wins we miss and the moments we take.
We are bold, daring,
gutsy.
We don't believe in fast forward, no rewind. We are here right now.
Do what you gotta do.
We
are fearless by nature.
Sakwamukela kuKhozi FM TV, gama lami uSiya Mhlongo. Sesibuyile khona noNeliswa Cele isihambeli sethu sanamhlanje uTony Kgoroge osebuyile kwimbewu. What role are you playing?
Ngosi. Yeah.
Hey, great effort ukuthi ukhuluma ulimi lwesiZulu.
What do you mean effort? It's there. It's clear.
Ingakho phela ngisho but it was an effort. It wasn't always there. But was phoqa wayifundisa. And that really says a lot about you as a professional that you are.
Thank you.
Are you comfortable where you are, or are you still wanting to push ungcolosi uze mhlambe uyoqokwa ube sebukhosini bakwabhengu?
No, I think it was a blessing, you know, and I really I really wanted to challenge myself when it comes to, because I don't believe in tribalism that much. I do not think high of anyone who's a tribalist. And it was also coming from the fact that, we allow people from outside to do this and this with our culture, but amongst ourselves, we can't. And one of the things that I was saying is that even with, challenging the SABC a little bit, to say, I don't understand why can't Mutsweding play a Zulu song? And why can't Ukhozi play a Sotho song, a Tswana song, or, but really dedicated to those different tribes to say, this is who we are. I want to play yours, you play mine, I play yours, you play mine.
Correct.
In the meantime, while that is happening, your people are learning about my people, my people are learning about your people.
I was playing, while we were prepping, Colin Maluleka, it's a gospel song, Makomba Ndlela, which is in Tsonga.
Yes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's and in gospel, you're right, because in gospel it happens a lot.
It opens up.
Where you have gospel songs being played everywhere and being enjoyed everywhere. I mean, you go to the Gospel Crown Awards, everybody's there singing everyone's song from different languages and so on and so forth. So it's a beautiful thing to do. And with me, I think I came with that kind of like mindset in saying I have to do this thing. But I was grind.
I was just about,
I did not want to take it easy, and I didn't want to take it for granted. Like literally, I had to work 3 times, even not 4 times harder than my fellow colleagues.
Sure.
Because they speak, I mean, it's their mother tongue. They speak it every day.
Yeah.
And the accent, yabo, ikhona, uyezwa ukuthi, hey, uyahamba lo muntu. So, and then if I come with a funny accent, because when I started, I had it slipped.
Yeah.
It was slipping a bit. It was slipping. And I had to go back and watch myself.
Sure.
And really listen. You know, and listen to myself and listen to myself and listen to different. And guess who actually helped me?
Uba.
It's comedian on the other radio station.
Felix
Stop. You know, Felix used to do those. Oh, he still even does this.
Voice of God.
No, when he could have Angil.
Oh yes, on TikTok.
That whole thing that he does. I used to listen to him. I was like, okay, this is the accent that I want to want to sit on. Because obviously
that stereotype Zulu man. Actually.
Yeah, he was playing all of the stereotypes Zulu man. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to sit on this. So I made sure that at least I listened to him 3 or 4 times a day. So that the voice becomes familiar, the accent becomes familiar, those words become familiar in my ear when I read my script. And the funny thing is the script is written in English.
Sure.
So you have to translate it into Zulu. And I had to make sure that at least I get, we have someone who knows isiZulu more than just, because there are people who speak isiZulu as a...
It's a Tegwin.
It's a Tegwin. Yeah. And I had to I had to know the difference between isiZulu and the one in the south and the one here, and I had to place my character in a certain
region, yes.
Yeah. And listen to abantu basembumbulu. So Felix was very closer to the Zulu that was spoken up in Mbumbulo.
Yeah.
So that's why I went that route, But it was not easy.
Bengisathi ngizobuza ngiyazi you have a question burning up. Bengisathi ngizobuza ukuthi is KwaZulu-Natal as conservative as we are always told? I mean, it's difficult to see when we are based here. Ukuthi nje amaZulu ayifuna into yayo ngendlela eyiyona. So for you now coming from Joburg, playing this role in a production based in KZN, is it 3 times harder?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But the one thing that I appreciate about abantu bakwaZulu, it's the pride in their culture and how they do things. And they will protect it at all times.
Yeah.
It's not like in other areas. Other areas will let it go here and whatever. I mean, you see it in simple things. Your friends or people get married.
Yeah.
When you come to a Zulu household, it's very clear what has to be done and why that thing is done.
Otherwise,
you go to other cultures, it's very like,
leniency.
But Lana, it's very clear. Anywhere you go, whether you go north, south, west, whatever, KwaZulu-Natal, that's what you get. So maybe it's that makes people to think that, they're very
narrow
and very,
conservative. Yeah. Okay. I feel better about myself as a Zulu man now.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Having acted on the global scene, I know it's not easy to break into that scene. So, and we've had, a few mhlambe that I can count on my one hand from South Africa who've been able to break into it and make it into that scene. What does it take for an actor? What sets them apart from you are local talent to you are global talent?
You may be A-lister South African, but you're not A-lister abroad.
Yes. That's true. That's true. You know what it is? I think it's you, as an actor, you also have to identify and put on the work and identify what is powerful out there or what is really sending a message and what makes those people different, and then you look into yourself. But in most cases, what happens is that you find actors trying to copy international actors and try to replay that here. But the cultures are different, so you can't copy. because you need to understand where that person was coming from in terms of him playing that part and you from here. But the difference then comes in when you get a neutral part that allows you to maneuver.
Yeah.
So when you get there, it can be a neutral local part. Like for instance, I was doing Recipes for Love and Murder. So Recipes for Love and Murder is an Mnet thing that went globally.
Yeah.
And actually it was more big globally than locally. The first lady who was playing there was Maria Kennedy. She's one of the very strong UK actors. And I was playing her second lead. So I had to gauge myself to say, even though I'm playing a South African character, but I'm not going to play it too South African that I alienate my international audience. Right?
Yeah.
Because my character does not exist. So I was starting it from scratch myself. So I was creating this thing. You know, it was just words.
Sure.
So it was for me to plug in that, what I think can resonate internationally, but without losing my South African audience. But unfortunately, it did not do well here. But it did well, and I think we'll be going into the second season soon.
Yeah.
So, but it did well internationally.
Yeah. Whilst on that, the flip side of that is that, and I'm sorry for using that example, and then if you can't comment because you were in the same movie, it's fine.
Okay.
Speaking of South Africans that copy American, and that being difficult because there's a whole culture that made them to be like that, fine. Here comes Idris playing Mandela. And now you see why I said if you don't want to comment.
No, I will comment.
How does that work when you pick up shortfalls from his side? Understanding that he's brought in as a huge draw card, which is almost like the earlier conversation with influencers.
With influencers, yeah. So now the difference is, okay, let me go to the influence. Let me just tackle the influencer part. The difference is he's an actor.
Okay.
An influencer is not an actor.
All right. Tick.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this one will be able to deliver emotions and whatever, but the accent might be a problem. Now we're talking Kgoroge playing Uzimel on Imbeo, and the accent might be a problem.
Yeah.
But we might elevate the show in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right. So that is what was happening with Idris.
Okay.
To say, okay, fine, this guy has an international and a global, you know.
Served his dues.
So let's bring him in.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with the challenges of accent.
Okay.
That's the only thing.
And
that's
accept that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously accent is not, and again, you also have to look into what producers, the producer will make, are they making this movie for South African audience or for a global audience? Will the global audience know the difference between me saying, Yebo Baba, and me saying, Yebo Baba, or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You sounded like coming to America.
You know what I mean? So again, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that is happening is that, we have two Shaka stories that are being made. There's a local one and there's an international one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is the one in Nomzam?
That's the local one.
That's the local one.
Yeah.
That I've seen.
There's there's an international one?
There's an international one.
Okay.
I think it's going to be on CBS.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm on that one.
All right.
And
so that would explain why you've gotten more gains.
So the difference is that our local one is going to, I think, this is just me, I might be wrong, but I think that the local one is going to resonate with the local audience.
Okay.
The international one is going to resonate with the international audience. Now, on the local one, you have a guy, he's Zulu, but he grew up very
soft.
Very Joburg. Let me say very Joburg.
Soft.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to say that. Very Joburg, right? And then on the other one, you have a Nigerian guy playing Mushak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To our audience, it might be like, hey, why didn't you get someone?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if the producers got someone like that, in terms of telling the international story, was that going to sell? Now, the argument that I also bring is that if the story of, like I said it even before, the story of Mandela is big. The story is bigger than any one of us, right?
Yeah.
So can that story sell? The story of Shaka is big. It's bigger than anyone in Africa, everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you go to Kenya, whether you go to Mozambique, you go to Nigeria, yeah. And what wins it? Can't argue that. So the story is big. So are you saying that if I put even Nomobani, the story won't sell? You see, so those are the things that we argue about and try to see, how can we put this one? How can we do this? How can? And then at the end of the day, one idea has to win. And the idea that will win is the idea with money. And that idea with money wins, everything goes.
That's interesting. Having so much knowledge into the processes, the decision making that come into having a successful production, do you ever consider yourself sitting on the other side and being the director or anything of the sort?
Yeah, I do sit on the other side sometimes. From
Nice.
time and time, I do go back. There's another series that we're going to do now. We're trying to look into the Ndebele culture and try to bring it out also into the fore. It's written by uTony.
Okay.
So I'll be directing on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other things that also we're trying to work with international streamers. And I'll also be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to do. And I also battle with these arguments. Who do we bring?
Money wins all the time.
Money wins all the time.
Sure.
It's interesting.
I don't care who says what.
It's the same even with the sporting world.
Yeah.
Now the Maradona hand of God goal won't pass because there are so many stakes with a goal or a non-goal that we're going to have to use VAR and say, no, it's a handball. In fact, it's a red card.
See.
So because there's so much invested, we can't just let that go, and money wins.
Yeah.
And it may just take away that agony and ecstasy of sport that used to just be sacred to sport.
Yeah.
And even with radio, now the theater of mind is being compromised because of all these elements. Money wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I think it also makes me wonder, going back to you, being a director. I've had some actors that I've met saying, Wuti, a director can really make or break an actor in the way in which they direct. In your experience, what has been the most, I don't want to say productive, but indlela that brings out the best in any actor that a director can use?
And you can name drop.
Yeah.
Well, there are many. I've worked with a lot of great South African talent in terms of directors and internationally. And there are those similarities. For me personally, I work with someone that I click with. Right. There's a lot of people that I haven't clicked with. I had a problem. I was doing this show in Cape Town, also for international. It's called Bird Can't Fly. Hey, unzima.
Yeah.
Where you sometimes, and when you work with a director who does not understand you and they want to dictate and they want to show you that they are the boss and blah blah blah, it becomes hard to even bring suggestions to say, hey, I also did a little bit of my research, about this character. I know you have an overall look on the whole thing, but let's be specific to my character. This is, and in this character meeting that character and that character, this is what's going to happen. The change is going to happen here and here. And the person that they don't care about what you're saying, then you know that there's a problem. It's either the person does not respect you, or it doesn't think high of you, or you've been forced on that production, maybe by the powers that be, and then, It's all those things that comes into play. And whether the director can make you or break you is, you find there are directors who cannot direct performance.
Sure.
They are very, they are more about technical.
Okay.
They're very technical.
The aesthetic.
Angles. I want to shoot it from there.
Yeah.
As this comes, and then he doesn't care about, your performance. So I was very lucky enough to understand those kind of people. If I work with someone who's very technical, I take over my performance, of course. And I just make sure that I deliver. And in trying to understand where the story is, why the story is being told like this. But sometimes then you find actors who are just being told, just go and find.
Yeah.
Again, I'm fun. Shy. Okay, now.
Yeah.
Can't you overreacting? You're doing things a bit too much, which is gonna throw you off on the other things. And you find, and the other thing that I found out is that people who translate, because you get your script in English, and nowadays now people have to translate into vernac. When they translate, that they think that they
resonate with the character.
You know what I mean? Because they want their characters to be liked.
Yeah.
Right? And that it just takes the story out of
Sure.
the thing. It just shifts the story. And you find your character being just is it going or is it coming back? And that compromises you for the next. So if I'm sitting there as a director or producer, I'm like, this guy, you're correct.
Yeah.
But if you align it and make sure that, I always say to people, be true to the story.
Yeah.
Be true to that character no matter what.
Yeah. Sihlelo Tony Kgoroge masibuya so ke sikhulume ngokuthi lama streaming service asekhona imapha ama pros and cons asewelethile kwi-industry yokulingisa eNingizimu Afrika sivale ngomshikashika abuye abe ingxenye kuona ukuthi kube khona inkululeko nezinto ezizosiza i-industry yama actors uma sekuyiswa lezo zinkulumo kuhulumeni masibuya kodwa.
Industry yokulingisa, industry that comes with a lot of talk, controversy, questions, interesting things. It's very fun today with Kona uTony. Tony, interestingly, I've met, even before I knew he's an actor, in my social life. So when I found out, I'm like, hi, Bo. I go on Google and I'm like, okay. Okay. And obviously, when it clicks and I'm like, oh, I've seen Invictus. I've seen it's you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really exciting to have him here today.
Yeah, it is.
But interesting question. People always say I was only celebrity kaya, like we celebrity Tina.
Yeah.
That I wonder, your wife is also quite a renowned actress. Do you ever come home and she's like, you see that role there, you
fluffed. How dare you?
So we criticize each other a lot, and we read a lot as well, and we watch movies together. We watch certain things. There are things that we say, this one. We can never do anything like this. We can never do that and this and this and that.
Yeah.
And
you can never do Telemundo.
You know what I mean? So we, even before she even leaves the house to go play anything, you must know, or me leave the house and go play anything. We have a hand in each other's work in one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's either we ran lines together. There's a lot of criticism there, a lot of crying. Sure. Saying, why do you want to play it like that? Why?
Sure.
But why do you take it there? But the character says this. This is what. And later on, so that means I also have to read her scripts.
Yeah.
And she also has to read my scripts. So we have that back and forth happening.
Kakul. Sure. Kushube nje.
Akhala endlini.
Ha. Ihaba labalingisi.
But we get to a point where, we say no, but okay, look at it this way, and if you get there, look at it that way.
Yeah.
And just see what the director will say.
Okay.
Sometimes she comes back, she's like, hey, actually, I did it your way. Actually, the director liked it that way.
Yeah.
Or, I actually felt better when I was on set because of. And again, you see who you're playing against. Like, so who you playing against? Which kind of actors are in your surroundings in terms of this? Who are you going to bounce off this kind of, you know? Because sometimes you can come up with these great ideas and trying to bounce off certain emotions because you prepare, right? So when you get there, you're like, okay, I'm going to hit it like this. So that when I appear in the next scene, then it becomes blah, blah, blah. Or it's a build-up, you know. And there are other actors who don't care about those build-ups. They just read what they see. They come in, they're like, clock.
And then back to the phone.
So Abanye, they really think about how they build this character. Okay, my character develops from here to here to here to there. So by the time I get here, because I get onto the high emotional whatever, is the climax of my character, then I want this to happen. So, but it has to build. So every scene that you are in, before you get to your climax, we have to see the journey of you developing into these emotions that you're going to get to when you get to your climax. By the time we get there and we see this break, we're like, oh, now we understand why he was like that. So, but you need to play against people who understand that kind of thinking and that kind of machinery and technique for you to be able to bounce off those kind of emotions. If you play against a pole, you're gonna look like a bumbleclad.
I'd like to say this. It's interesting that nobabili nishadile kodwa nanidlala ngesikhathi esisodwa kumasophizayo kuyiwona emakhulu in South Africa at the time. She was on Generations playing two characters, Zinzi and Zoleka. She was playing a character Mawel, and you were playing Samuel Nisting as well. There's this thing in South Africa. When you've been in the industry for long, you are automatically good. In fact, you are automatically great. And I beg to differ. There's just this thing about if you've gone at 20 years, how do we address that? I mean, besides the talk on Twitter or whatever, but Yoguti, should you get the lead of the next big production or not? When you're not necessarily, you've just been there for long.
Yeah, I always say, even when I teach, I always say there are different types of actors. There's a guy when he walks here and you're like, wow, this guy is royalty. We're born with it. And you can't make him play any other part but put him in those parts where he's. And there are those guys who have this romantic thing about them. And there are guys who are, I call them the gags man. But you don't know why you laugh. He just says something, and people go, but he was trying to say something serious, but people were laughing, And you have people like that. And all these people, sinabo in the industry, and some of them are old, and most of them are old. In going forth, after some time when they have served, when they're like in their 20 years after in the industry. Now, all of a sudden, I have this movie that needs an older royal man who's going to play the role. I'm not going to take a gags man who's been in the industry for 20 years and put him there just because he's been in the industry for 20 years. I'm going to look for that royal guy. If I want a romantic old man who, bring his charm and do all these things, I'm not, so that has to also be, I mean, if you think of Al Pacino, you know what you think, you know what you see, right? And he's been in the industry for long, but if you look at most of the characters that he plays, you can kind of like see that he's been placed in what kind of characters.
Robert De
Niro. If you look at all these other, if you look at Viola Davis, even though his career boomed
typecasted
later, it sometimes gets to that where when you get old, you no longer care about. You know what I mean?
So
you kind of like, okay. but they're gonna give you this much. How much? This much? Like, okay, no, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, they say they're gonna up it up by. Oh, okay, fine, let me do it. You know.
Yeah.
So I think the older you get, the more fussier you become in terms of what characters they put you in.
Sure.
But you kind of like take it because you know. Or is this something that you just want to do or just love doing?
Yeah.
And in most cases, when you want to see that they are different characters, go and watch them in theater.
Okay.
Then you will see something totally different.
Okay.
And I think that's where that whole thing, you know, people. I don't think our people understand that. You can't be in. He's been in the industry for 20 years. Now he must play a leading role.
Yeah.
No, but it has to come with certain qualities
Yes.
and, you know.
With the industry changing so much and now we're having the streaming services as a very big option that didn't exist in the past, what does that come with, you know, for actors? What are the pros and cons?
You know, I think the streaming services for now, it came in at the right time, where the industry was really struggling. People were losing jobs and there was nothing, and all of a sudden there was this streaming services making like 8 productions at a go and paying people well. They really pay people well.
Okay.
And, you know, really looking after what these people, and people coming in. You remember there was an announcement that this so-and-so streaming service is coming with this kind of money that is coming to invest in the country while we're still coming from, you know.
Yeah.
It's that. And
the big N.
Hey?
The N. The one that.
Yes, yes. So they put the money, and then there are others coming. There's like the D, you know, the one that I was speaking about earlier.
Sure.
It's a beautiful thing because what they bring in the quality and the kind of like the approach that they bring is an international approach, which also make our actors lift a little bit and level up and go into those. You can see the difference, right? You can see the difference when you're watching our local and when you're watching the streaming. Like, there's a bit of a, you know. I mean, one of the things that I like about them that they become very, very brave, and they want to spend money into that. One of our first sci-fi movie that we did, The Brave Ones. It was done on the stream thing, but Akin had that movie like a long time ago.
Really?
It's been like,
I
was even telling him like,
Akin Omotosho.
Yeah. It's like, hey, forget about this, man. Can we look into other things? Yeah. And you know? So what he did is, it's a very interesting thing. He took different African practices and beliefs.
Yeah.
Which is South Africans, Nigerian, because he's Nigerian, but so Nigerians, and he grew up in South Africa. So South African, Nigerian, tried to mix them together and create this sci-fi of a super woman, girly, who has these powers, and she's the brave one, but with African connotation, context to it, you know, which was different. And after all these years, it was taken by the streaming company, and all these other people, they were like, nah, you know. And it became brave, and it gave platform for us to be able to tell those kind of stories. To work with the after effects, to work with green screens and all these kind of things where people were not exposed to that. I don't think a lot of people knows how to, you know, they're not exposed to working with green screen. It's also another technique that you have to use as an actor to be believable in that world.
I see Val.
So
the streams, the opportunities.
Those are pros, right?
Look, you're going to get into the cons with the question I'm asking now.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. All right.
The struggle for artists and making government hear us, and in this context I'm speaking about actors, you know, there are things I know, locally, I think there's one, SIFSA, I think it's SIFSA.
Yeah, the cultural industries of South Africa.
I
I was actually I'm the former president of SIFS.
Oh, really?
Nationally, yeah.
Wow. You see. Give us context. Izinto zokuthi while you are working on set or location and you sprain an ankle and you can't, the production won't do anything about that. There's no things like medical aid.
Insurance of any sort.
If a director decides I start on 8, there won't be overtime and certain things like that. It probably depends. The money that the production company will quote channel for Tony, but on contract it's something different. Things like that. How far is that struggle? I know Flo is the one who's really in the forefront about that. And what are we trying to address, and what are the struggles, and how are we getting there? Bayasizwa now.
The main problem that we have is that we don't there's no standard in the country, and we don't have formalization of the industry. So anybody who ends up it can take someone who comes from a spaza shop, I figure, with an idea in the industry. Here's my idea, and tomorrow that person is a producer. Remember, there used to be auction bioscopes.
Yes.
Remember? There was a guy. I remember we were in a meeting, and that guy came with DVDs. DVD.
Yeah.
Come
on, they're not so ancient.
No, but listen. It was a stack of DVDs. And he said, I'm a filmmaker. And people were like, hold on. I'm like, listen, I've made 30 of these films. What have you made? When Tony. I can't compare myself to, So in his eyes, he's a filmmaker, but there's nobody. And let me say, in his eyes, a filmmaker and has made 30 films. Here's Tony, who hasn't maybe made short films and directed here and there, but you don't have a film of your own that you can also sit with in 30 packs and say, this is my 30, that's
catalog.
Your 30. So in a politician, let's say a politician's eye, that guy's a filmmaker, he made 30 movies. Then he wants to argue, and you can't even argue the nitty-gritties of it, because then it goes into something else, right? So he will be preferred to be part of filmmaking society and be in the forefront, because he has more experience in terms of making films than you. So that's where the problem is. Who comes in and who is eligible to get things from whether government or from production house, it's very dicey. So when those people come in, they come in with the mindset of saying, I'm going to make money. And the person who comes with that kind of an idea, whereas you must make money, but mostly exploitation becomes the top of your list. And they will exploit every line of production that is put there. And in Kala Konanap. So what I'm trying to say is that if we don't have standard, if we don't have formalization, if we don't look after the kids who have gone to DUT, TUT, VETS, UCT, Pretoria University, and all those kids who their parents are working so hard to put them through film school, acting school, and all those kind of things. By the time they come out, by the time they graduate, there's no space for them, because the space is occupied by uneducated creatives or uncreative creatives.
Gatekeepers.
Do you understand? And they play politics on these kids. And they'll pick and choose the ones who are brilliant and put them behind them and exploit their knowledge until they get tired, and then they kick them out. And that's why you get kids coming out and saying, but I worked for he never paid me. There's a lot of those stories. There's a guy who called me yesterday, there's a guy who called me, it's a Bratwan Kalung says. There's this guy who has opened an agency here at Durban, uvale ifoni manje uyangikweleta.
Eish.
Ngicela nje mongahlangana naye nje ukhulume naye angazi ukuthi uyamazi nanti igama lakhe.
And mhlambe wavuma kangasayini icontract akangachazeleka kahle ngenxa ukuthi wathi this is my break. Let me not ask too many things.
And then it also goes to the fact ukuthi labantu they open these agencies ungazi ukuthi ama-office akhona kuphi. Bafuna ama-1,500 from kids.
Sure.
So if I have 30 of you every month and you're going to give me 1,000, I am okay. I'm fine. Do you understand anything? Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So that's where the problem is, and that's where we need to fix before we go into you sprain your ankle, whatever. Because if we have a standard and we formalize this thing, then all those things will fall into place. So we don't even have to argue about it. What the actor ulimel? Let's check the standard. What's the standard? Then we go look. Oh, you're supposed to have insurance. You're supposed to have insurance for your actors. You're supposed to have insurance for your crew.
Yeah.
And it's not only actors as well. You know, crew. Those are the guys who make it possible for us.
And they work hard.
Listen,
They
crew members
hard,
man. They're the most exploited people in
Shout
the
out
industry.
to crew members.
Yeah. And we never speak about it. We never speak about it because they are not in front of our screens.
Correct.
You know.
That's a disservice. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
You are such a great mouthpiece for the industry. Siyabonga passion iwubizo lento kuwena kuyasho ukuthi awuzenzeli wena. Kuyabonakala ukuthi there's a legacy ofuna ukuyishare. Eyiphi by the way sesivalelisa ilegacy yakho nje. Usuhambile somewhere in the afterlife. Usuyibuka ukuthi nayi lento into fruition.
Yeah. Kuningana kodwa I would love to see having taught people with whatever knowledge that I have, share that knowledge and making sure that whoever I've shared the knowledge with or the experience with, they even make it bigger than I was.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah. That's cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't have words after that. Really,
Besinomonde Ngcobo ne? Naye futhi he took us angazi nje kunalama guests esinawo kulezi insuku avela siyise nje deep into conversation uzonakusisa ukuthi asikhulumanga kakhulu ekutheni what do you eat, how many times do you exercise. I'm sure you've had those interviews 100 times already.
No, that's true.
We appreciate you coming through.
Thank you very much.
And our Ukhozi FM radio listeners love you, and our Ukhozi FM TV viewers also love you. Thank you so much. Siyabonga kakhulu. BekuTony Kgoroge sihambele sethu utshele nabanye ukuthi sikhona ingxoxo yethu naye kuKhozi FM TV. Siyabonga kakhulu Siya Mhlongo lo.
Cele, another time.